Alrighty, and this is Paul at O0T with the Front Range 6-meter group. Tonight we have Dana, VE3DS, going to give us a out-of-the-box explanation of what he saw when he opened his K4 for the first time, and maybe tell us a little bit about what you like about the K4. It's all yours, sir.
Just hang in there, Paul. I've got a little glitch here. Just give me a sec. I may have to, it won't let me share my screen without quitting and reopening. So stand by.
Standing by.
I sure hope so. Okay, let me try this. Oh yeah, that looks much better. Okay. Okay, guys. I'm doing. I'm on.
Looks good. I can see the slides on the left-hand side.
Okay, I'm back. I don't know what's going on here. I'm trying to share my screen, so let's see. Let's see what happens this time. Okay.
There.
Got it?
Yeah, you just got to put it into slideshow. There you go.
Okay, let's see what happens now. Okay, so can you guys see? I've got two screens here. So are you seeing the main slide?
We're seeing both.
You're seeing, oh, you're seeing both.
We're seeing the notes on the right.
Interesting. Okay. All right. Well,
the notes on the right, you can just drag them down to the bottom. They'll get out of the way. Each person, you don't need to, just we do.
There you go. Now just go back a slide.
Yeah. Okay. There we go. Okay, guys. Yeah. Well, as Paul said, I ordered my K4 back in October of 2020, and immediately was put on the waiting list for delivery, and took delivery just around the time of the January contest, actually. So I didn't get a chance to put the radio through its paces on in the contest. It sat on the back table for the contest. I didn't want to do anything to touch any of the gear because it's wireless, and if I touch something, it'll break, and I didn't want to spend most of the contest trying to fix things. So I forced myself to, just leave it alone. Anyway, I was thrilled to get it. UPS called me and they wanted some money from me because they had to pay the brokerage fees and stuff like that to get it across our porous border here. And then they told me that they wouldn't be able, this was on a Friday, and they told me they wouldn't be able to deliver it till Monday. So I thought, well, okay, fine. I got the contest this weekend. That's okay. 20 minutes later, the doorbell rings. So I go up, there's a guy standing there with this big box. I said, I opened the door, and I said to him, I said, oh, is it Monday already? And he just kind of looked at me like, what? Anyway, so I was just ecstatic to have this thing, and opened it up. And since then, I've been able to get it hooked up, and play around with it. And I've got to admit, I'm pretty impressed with the radio overall. The K4 comes in 3 flavors. There's the basic K4, which has a single analog to digital converter and bandpass filter inside, and it has dual receivers, but with the single channel you can only have both receivers on the same band, basically, because if you put the receiver on an alternate band without the bandpass filters, you lose, you're not as sensitive for reception without that. And the K4D has dual 8 analog to digital converters and dual bandpass filters. And the advantage of that is you can do diversity reception with it, because you can have 2 separate antennas, one for each receiver, and because everything is phase controlled inside, you can get true diversity with it.
Can I ask you a question real quickly?
Yep.
Is if you decide to get the K4, can you next year decide to upgrade to the D?
Yeah. It's they haven't come out with the kit version yet, but if like I bought a K3 in 2011, and I bought the kit and put it together. And it wasn't like a Heath kit or anything like that. So it was basically no soldering, but it was just a lot of mechanical assembly. So Elecraft are very good at that. So they have an upgrade path for all the receivers. So you can add this stuff in later. And of course, the K4 HD not only has all the features of the K4D, but it also has a super het module. So it's basically like the K3. It has an 8 meg IF, comes with dual roofing filters, and it integrates in with the direct conversion in the receiver as well. So you get all the advantages of the direct conversion process, and you get the additional features that make the receivers basically bulletproof. One of the drawbacks with all these direct conversion receivers is the analog to digital converter sees the entire RF spectrum. So if you've got a lot of strong signals, it will all that strong signal reception will be additive and will cause overload in the ADAC. So they get around that by going back to the good old-fashioned super het process, and that eliminates that problem. I did some testing with the K4 in the ARRL 160 meter contest. Oh, sorry, with the CQ 160 contest, the CW contest, and I have a couple of broadcast transmitters that are within a couple of miles of me, and I didn't notice any issues at all with overload at all on 160, even with a lot of very strong in-band signals. I didn't see any overload. The only time I did see it was actually on 6 meters with all 3 preamps turned on, and and my antenna pointed at a noisy power pole here that's about 300 feet from me. And I did see the overload light come on from the noise, but as soon as I kicked off the 3rd preamp, everything settled down nicely. But it's a noisy insulator. I'm trying to get it fixed. But you know how it is in wintertime, things get dry, and and you get a lot of salt build up around here with the salt they put on the roads, and it gets in the air and it coats the insulators, and then they start tracking, and that's when I pray for rain. So as soon as it rains, things sort of settle down. Anyway, so that's the general design of this thing. So it has a lot of the features of the K3, and it integrates the good stuff from the K3 into the K4, takes the separate panoramic display that you used to have to buy separately with the K3, puts it into the radio itself, and they've done a really good job of laying out everything. That's where my first bullet point is where is the cotton picking buttons, because my rear brain here has gotten so used to using the K3, I don't even think about, push where I'm going when I'm pushing buttons. And then of course, when I went over to the K4, it was like, oh yeah, geez, where is this? So it took me a little while to get into get used to where the mode button was and where the direct frequency entry was, and a lot of things like that. But it's slowly working its way through. So I'm making progress here. I still every once in a while have to go, oh gee, where is that? And the interesting thing is that Elecraft have actually put the operating manual in the radio. So with the K3, I used to have to get the book out and thumb through it. And of course, I've got stickies and little notes and stuff like that all through it for various things. It's really well documented anyway. But with this one, with the K4, it's the manual's in the radio. So it's a little different, but it seems to be a good choice. And it's also available for download on the Elecraft website. But the one thing I noticed operating on 160 on CW is with the filters, there's no ringing. My first radio, my first good radio when I was newly licensed was a Heathkit SB300, and it had crystal filters in it, and they would ring. The 400 hertz filter would ring and ring and ring, and after a while, it was very fatiguing. I had a Drake R4A, and it used like a mechanical filter system, and it didn't ring. It was really nice, but the skirts were pretty wide on that receiver. And the K3 has crystal filters in it, and they do ring. So that was the downside. But with the K4, there's no ringing, and I had the filters, the electronic filters cranked down to 100 hertz, and there was absolutely no ringing. So, and also it has a peaking filter, a peaking filter in it for CW. So similar to what's in the K3, and the one in the K3 would ring and this one doesn't. So that's great. And apparently there's a software update being worked on right now, version 29, according to the count, which is going to improve the skirts on the filters, make them a little tighter, and add in some other features as well on the transmit side for controlled single sideband. So I've been kind of watching the discussion about that, but I'm not sure. They're putting it through a very long testing process, obviously, so I'm not sure when it's going to be released. So it's got a tremendous number of one of amazing features actually in it that that if I had had this when I was a kid, I would have thought I died and gone to heaven. But I'm glad to say that I lived long enough to see this, because this is really amazing. So it has dual receivers. You can have them on the same band. You can have them on different bands. I've got it set up, one receiver on 160 and the other receiver on 6 meters. So I can set it up to watch both bands. One of the things that they're still working on at Elecraft is a remote control software package. They showed a beta of it on YouTube. If you go up on YouTube and search on Elecraft, you'll see there's been a few presentations up there by the guys there, and it's a pretty slick piece of software. The other thing too is the I and Q signals are available on the network port on the back of the receiver. So I don't think they've released all the data yet as to how to access it, but apparently there are 3 channels or something available of this stuff. So there's huge potential for adding in new software. Now the receiver itself, or the transceiver itself, uses a single board computer that's running Linux, a version of Linux. So they did make the comment that there's plenty of room on board for additional software, such as logging programs or other control programs, because basically it's a computer in a box. So this is going to be interesting to see how this evolves over time. But it's it's a great radio. It covers 160 meters, and they've also incorporated some filtering as well for broadcast band for people that are in areas with really strong broadcast band signals. One thing I did find with the transceiver is the single sideband reception is absolutely amazing. And I think it has to do with the way the DSP is set up in the K4 compared to the K3. So they've got much more bandwidth, much more processing capabilities in the K4, and they've been able to provide a much more mellow audio signal. That's the only way I can describe it. The K3's got a little bit of a scratchy audio to it, but I find reception with the K4 is absolutely superb on CW and single sideband. Another feature that it has is on CW, you can set up an audio effect, because it has stereo audio with the dual receivers. So you can have one receiver on one side on one receiver, one side on the other, or for diversity reception, you can set it up so that you're actually hearing the 2 signals in sort of a synthetic stereo. And the other thing that they've done is on CW, you can set it up so that as you tune across the band, the CW signal moves from left to right and frequency changes. So it starts out as a higher frequency and then comes down to where it's dead center at, so if you've got set up for 600 Hertz, and then as you move off, it goes down in frequency. And that takes a bit of getting used to, but it's really cool in a contest, because you can have a number of signals above and below, and you can sort of pick through them that way. So I want to play around with that a bit more, but it's pretty cool. I had alluded to the fact that there are 3 preamps in this thing. The first preamp is used on HF, and it's selectable. It goes in ahead of the analog to digital converter. So you can run the analog to digital converter barefoot, if you will, on receive, or you can kick in a little bit of gain bring the signals up if you're having trouble. And then on the higher frequencies on 24, 28, and 50, you've got two more levels of preamplification as well. So on 6 meters, you can crank it wide open if you want. I find here in Toronto, in the area that I'm in here in the suburbs, it's pretty noisy, as I mentioned, and I find that third preamp doesn't really help that much. I've found last summer anyway on FT8 that it really didn't make too much of a difference with the European DX coming in. I don't know, like the receiver has the Elecraft have upgraded the capabilities for macros, and you can write little macro code to do things in the receiver, automate processes, which is pretty cool. And they've the one thing I found with the K3 was you can run external transverters with it. The K3 came with a built-in 2-meter transverter if you wanted it. And then the way I've got it configured is I can run 6 meters and 2 meters with the internal. And then I can also use the internal 2-meter transverter on 902, 1296, 2304, 3456, and 5760 with transverters. And then also 222 and 432 with a 28 meg IF. So it's highly configurable, and you can also set the display up to show the actual frequency. So if you're on 902 megahertz, the display says 902 megahertz. So it follows the band all the way up, which is pretty slick. With the K4, they've done the same thing, but they've added more transverter bands. So there's actually going to be 12. The capabilities there for 12 bands. So that'll take you right up into the microwave region as well. The band data information is out on the back as well. It's the same setup as the K3. There's an accessory plug, and that can be used to drive antenna switches, amplifiers. You can select HF or VHF. So with the K3, I've got it selected for VHF, so I can drive a switching system that I have here that automatically selects the right transverter and amplifiers for each band with just push of one button. So I can just literally go from 6 meters all the way up with just pushing one button to change the band. And they've done the same thing with the K4. They're talking about an internal transverter as well. Just looking on the Elecraft website tonight, I see they're talking about a 70 megahertz and 2-meter transverter. And I still didn't see anything about 222. And then they also made some comment about 432. So hopefully you may wind up being able to get 220 and 432 and 2 meters added into the box, which would be really great if you do a lot of portable operation and you don't want to haul a lot of stuff around. That'd be the way to go. If not, I'm probably going to get the Q5 5-band transverter and go that route. So I have 2 meters through 1296 all in one box. Anyway, it works fine. I got it all set up with it has multiple USB ports on it. I've got it set up with a mouse control now, so I can control the display and tune around with the mouse. And it talks fine to N1MM, and I'm on a Mac, so it talks to my rumlog program and WSJT and JTDX. And I accidentally found out that the way I've got it set up, I can have both the K3 and the K4 on at the same time. And if I touch the dial on the K3, everything goes over to the K3. And then if I touch the dial on the K4, everything goes over to the K4. I don't have to do anything. And it was like, whoa, where did this come from? So I was quite surprised, but having the additional USB ports and such on the K4 seems to be quite a seamless transition. So there's capability there for dual, to run two receivers, two radios, SO2R and things like that. So it'd be amazing for contesting. The noise blanker is another critical thing, and I found it's quite effective once you find the right setting. So that plus the internal DSP processing that they have at this point actually makes pulling signals out very, very effective and a lot less fatiguing than with the K3. So it's really quite a good receiver. I can't complain. I haven't got any complaints so far. And the transmitter audio quality is great. Setting it up with WSJT was no problem at all. Once I read the instructions, but it comes with when I opened the box, this was sitting on the top of the box. And I don't know if you can see if it's blurry or not, but it's the introduction to the K4, and it's a large spiral bound manual with a lot of pictures in it explaining where everything is and what it does. And of course, the other resource is the Elecraft website, and I've posted up just a shot of what's available there in terms of operating manuals, programming references, and other stuff. Radcom did a great review on the K4 a couple of months ago, and it's now been posted up on the Elecraft website. So I put the URL there too. So if you want to read it, it's quite well done. And I certainly agreed with what they were saying overall. Now, the interesting thing with this is the design topology is similar to the ICOM 7610. As a matter of fact, both radios use the same analog to digital converters, but ICOM have done it a little bit differently. So they've left the preamp ahead of the preamp is ahead of the converter, but you can't remove it. You can't take it out of the line. It's there all the time. One of my good friends, VE3FAC, has the 7610, and again, he's sort of the same vintage as I am, and came up the same way, and he's just been having a ball with it. So they're both very similar in terms of performance, I would say, and I think a lot of the other transceivers available on the market are in this ballpark. So they're all basically very high performance pieces of equipment, and I think that to differentiate them, I think some of it's going to come down to technical specifications, but I have a feeling that the differentiation will be more subjective, more operator built on operator experience, maybe, and based on Elecraft's history of great customer service. I think that'll differentiate. That'd be one of the differentiators, is the customer service aspect, and Elecraft's willingness to listen to the users out there, to their suggestions for improvement, their wish lists. And this is just what I've been seeing over the last 2 years, is the hey, can you do this, Wayne? Can you do that, Wayne? What about this? Are you guys going to do, that kind of stuff? And they're listening. And the one thing that that they did an awful lot of beta field testing before releasing the K4 for production. And of course, then we had the COVID-19 thing and the wildfires in California, which put them way back behind the 8 ball in terms of production. But they've more than made up for it since then. They rapidly cleared out their backlog of orders from Dayton from 2019, 2018, I think, and then all the orders going forward. So like I said, I ordered mine in October of 2020 and had to wait, but it was interesting watching them spool up, and one of the guys put a groups IO together for order tracking, and he's a salesman. He came up with an algorithm where they were guesstimating when they were going to be releasing a radio. So everybody that had orders got on this group IO, and they built up a list of, you know, when everybody ordered, what they ordered, and then they started tracking production. This stuff would come in, and he was really close in terms of target, you know, estimated target for delivery. So they're now into, they split it into 3 groups of orders, and they're into the 3rd group now. So they're taking current orders now and getting them out quite rapidly. So, you know, let's hope there's no more forest fires, no more epidemics or whatever out there, so they keep cranking the stuff out. That's all I can say. Having said that, the HD module has gone through 2 complete design cycles because of supply chain issues. So they haven't yet come up with a firm date for when that's going to be available. So it's been impacted. It sounds like pretty substantially. So we'll have to wait and see where that goes. And no word on the transverters either. So there you go. Anyway, this is an image of what the transceiver looks like on the front. And these knobs down here are they're push knobs, and they're rotatable as well. So they're dual function. On sideband, this adjusts the mic volume and the compression, and the power level here. And this adjusts the filter bandwidth, and you can shift the filter pass band around too to optimize reception depending on how bad your hearing is. so it's quite a handy feature. All these functions are on the display. So it's a touch screen display, and you can poke these with a mouse or with your finger, and bring up all the various functions that you can set the bandwidth, or you can have like a dual receive window here. So you can have receiver A on this side and receiver B on this side. Up here is you can punch in the frequency directly with these buttons. There's a audio keyer as well with memories, and RIT and transmit offset as well. So you can run split transmit receive, or you can stay on your receive frequency and just slide your transmit frequency around, or stay on your transmit frequency and slide around with your RIT. So it's pretty nice. It's not too heavy. It weighs about 10 pounds. So it's a little bit heavier than the K3, but not by much. It's larger than the K3, and I think I find that the control knob, like the tuning knob, much more comfortable. It's a little bit bigger, and the rate's adjustable as well. and it's a lot easier to change the rate with this one. You can just literally move this little slider around here to change your tuning rate, so it can be done fairly quickly. And this is what it looks like on the inside. I stole these off the RSGB article because I didn't want to start taking mine apart to take pictures. Not yet. But you've got the transmitter section here, and the computer and RF receive sections here as well. And switching and controls on the bottom for various functions. So it's nicely laid out, and they've really done a good job, I think, ergonomically with the design. And oh, okay, I got a black screen here. Hang on. And the back. So this is what the back of the radio looks like, and if any of you guys have K3s, you know how crowded the back of the K3 can get. So they've done a fabulous job here with it comes with 3 antenna ports. The 4th one is blank right now, and it's designated for the transverter. But if you really wanted to add another antenna port, you could just add a connector on there, and then if you wanted to put in, say, another SDR inside or something like the SDR play, you could do that as well. It uses the same power pole connection as the K3. There's a ground connection. You've got your transverter inputs and outputs here. Transmit sample line talks to your amplifier for, I guess they're going to use that for controlled SSB. And 2 additional receive lines. You can put in bandpass filtering, external bandpass filters, I think for SO2R or SO2V. There's an Ethernet connection. So you can actually put the radio on your network, and that's how you do your firmware updates. Like, it'll actually talk back to the factory and pull the information down. They've put in 2 USB ports, 3 USB ports here as well. This is a reference 10 meg reference in for a GPS, but from what I've heard, nobody's found it necessary, because the radio is so stable. It doesn't seem to need that level of accuracy, but we'll see. You can run. I run headphones on mine with, and I can plug I got the headphones and the mic plugged in the back. There's a spot for a keyer paddle as well, or a hand key, and then on the far right, you've got some additional. You've got some additional connections as well. So, there's a lot of room in the back. It's easy to access. And it's just a really well thought out setup, given the size of the radio, given what everybody wants to do. If you got to get in there to run cabling, so I'm quite impressed after struggling with the K3 at times. As you start adding more and more wires back there, it gets a little difficult to maneuver and get things around. So I'm happy with that, but we'll see how that works out once I start adding more things like transverter connections and interconnections to control the my transverter switching and stuff like that. So we'll see how that looks. But I'm
Hey, Dana.
hopeful.
Hey, Dana, where did you plug in your mouse?
Oh, yes. Okay. Well, that's a good question. So
USB port?
the USB port, there's a USB port on the front as well. So I've got the little Logitech radio, the little USB plug-in stuck in the front, so that it can talk to my wireless mouse here. But yeah, I missed that, and that that's another feature that they've added that isn't in the on the K3. So you got all these optional ways of putting connecting keyboards and mice, and they have a gizmo called a K-Pod, which is basically a remote controller with a knob on it and some push buttons. So where you can store macros. So
on the back's got that 9-pin COM port. What the heck's that? They've got all the USB stuff, and still they got a
they
serial port.
they still have the original 9-pin RS-232 port as well.
That's cool, but takes up a lot of room in the back panel there. But whatever.
Yeah, and below that is the 15-pin connector for
Yep.
the accessories as well.
Yeah.
So
Keep it backwards compatible in case you're interested in
So
that.
That's a good point.
yeah,
Yeah.
and that's exactly that's exactly the feature I'm looking for, because I want to be able to hook up all my transverters and without having to go through and change everything and redesign everything.
That makes sense. I got it. Yeah.
Yeah. So they've done a great job on it. As far as that goes, I think it's oh, and one of the other things they've changed are the connectors inside. In the K3, they used a lot of these little push-on connectors, these little cheapy, I forget what they're called, but they're really fragile El Cheapo RF connectors, and I buggered a few of those up with the transverter, pulling cables in and out, to the point where I had to take the transverter out, take the thing apart, and reconfigure the connector, because the female portion had been distorted and pushed out because I had misaligned the connectors when I was trying to put them in. So they've gone to a much more robust MCX type connector here on the inside, I see. So I'll definitely have to take it apart and have a look, but that's good. That's from a quality perspective, that I think that just speaks buckets about what they've learned from the K3, and incorporated everybody's complaints or suggestions, I guess, if you will, if you want to be nice about it. But hey guys, like, why did you go the cheap route with these things? So why don't you do something a little better? So they listen, and that's one of the good things about Elecraft is the guys care. And from my perspective, it reminds me a lot about what they remind me of is a lot about Drake, because Drake was the same way. It was like a US company, a bunch of guys getting together and deciding to produce quality radios for everybody in the ham radio market, and look where that took them. And Elecraft have that same attitude towards their customers and towards the market. So it just speaks buckets about their stuff. So I can't rave more about that, but I better not. But that's just an unpaid plug, I guess you could say. Anyway, so that's it for
Is there a
presentation.
Dana, is there a computer user interface to this as well?
A computer user interface.
Okay, like like something where you can have it like remote.
Yeah, they're working on it. Elecraft are actually, they have a I've seen the prototype, and it basically is there there was a program for the K3 way back that emulated the K3, and it would come up on your computer screen with the front panel
Right.
with all the controls. And they've done the same thing with the K4.
Yeah, I know.
So
I know some guys have it like there's some ICOM software out there that
Oh.
can emulate the ICOM radios, like the 7600, the 7610.
Yeah.
And you're wondering about that accessory you had there. You're talking about the one that has some macros or something built into it. I'm not
That's
sure
right.
what that is.
Yep.
Is that got a dial on it?
Yeah, it does. It's called the K-Pod. K-P-O-D.
Kind
K-Pod.
of like iPod, K-Pod. Got it. But,
Yeah, yeah.
So,
And
is that,
they came
that-
out with that with the K3. So it's one of these things where they've carried it forward.
what I'm thinking about is like for remote operation, if you were, if you wanted to
Yeah.
have the radio somewhere else and then
Oh,
be
well,
able to tune it.
actually the software, the one I saw, they had it on an iPad with the touch screen. So you can literally tune the radio with your finger remotely.
Yeah, but I think most guys like to have something like that big dial you have there, that weighted dial.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, can you see my picture?
yes.
Yeah, that's the beast right there.
That's the K-Pod.
Yeah.
It's got a big dial. I use it for the B receiver. It's got 8 push buttons on it,
Mm-hmm.
which can be used for 16 macros. And it's got a switch on the bottom. You can switch between VFO-A, VFO-B, and RIT, XIT. When I sold my K3, I kept the K-Pod.
Wow.
Yeah, smart.
It just plugs into a USB port. So I plug it into one of the USB ports in the back.
What
Another, I don't know, another comment. Can you go to the picture of the back of the radio again?
Okay, let me. One of the things I got here is a streaming box. So I've got it connected to the video output of the K4. I don't know if did I mention it has a video output? Maybe I didn't. So you can actually plug this directly into a monitor. But I've got this going into a streaming port, a streaming box, and then from there it goes into my computer, so I can actually bring the display up as a separate piece on the screen here without buying a fancy new monitor. So that's what I'm showing here.
Is that video connector on the back HDMI? It's kind of hard to see.
Yeah, it's HDMI. Here, let me kick this off here.
The separate screen is not the screen on the radio. It is a second screen that you can configure independent of the radio itself.
Yeah.
It's awesome. It's really awesome.
Okay, let me find the PowerPoint here again. Okay. Okay, here we go. I think what have I done? What are you seeing there, Paul?
I'm just seeing the bottom of the radio and the
Okay.
case off there.
So
There we go. We're getting there.
you wanted to get to the back?
The back. Okay. Something I want to point out.
Yeah.
You only get antenna 1 with the radio. To get antenna outputs 2 and 3, you have to add the optional internal ATU, because that's where the switcher is. The
Right.
switching is.
Yeah.
So that's kind of critical. A week before they shipped mine, Madeline called and said, "Do you want the ATU?" And I said, "No." And she says, "Well, this is why you probably want it." So I strongly recommend that you add the internal ATU, even if you don't think you will use it.
That's a very good point. And I didn't mention that, but when I bought the K3, I didn't get the ATU. And about 3 months later, I ordered the ATU for it. And it's a 10-to-1 type ATU, and I've actually been able to load up just about everything on 160 meters with it. So when I ordered the K4, I automatically ordered the ATU, and it's virtually just as flexible as the K3. I didn't appreciate the fact, I think I remember reading that antenna port 2 and 3 were tied into the ATU, and there is a logic diagram somewhere that I saw that shows the path. But that's a good point about that. So
I also have not found them that supportive. The attitude seems to be our radios are perfect. It took us, if you watch the IO groups, you'll see it took us 3 or 4 months to convince them there were problems with the compression. And last week they announced they were going to fix it, and it'll be an RC29.
mhm.
What it does is it chops the transmit bandwidth from 2.8 down to 2.6 or almost 2.4. So the radio sounds tinny, and it doesn't work well. So they kind of recommend, if you're going to do a contest with pilots or DX, put it in SSB mode and turn the compression on. If you're just rag chewing, they say put it in ESSB,
Mhm.
which turns off compression, and just put it down to minimum 3 kilohertz bandwidth. So the firmware is really a work in progress at
Oh,
this
yeah.
point.
Yeah.
If you're going to buy one, you kind of need to know that.
For sure. And
You push a button and the answer is not implemented.
yeah,
So
and
I like it. I mean, the
I think I found one of those not implemented buttons, and I forget what it was that I was looking for. But I know mine came with the firmware 24, and then I upgraded to 28 when it was released for production, and that seemed to make a tremendous difference with a lot of functions. So
Yes.
I hear that 29 is going to incorporate a lot more of those improvements. So it's the same thing with the K3. They went through regular firmware updates all the way along. So it's no surprise they're doing the same thing with the K4.
Like the CW update, the filters, they realized it was a problem. They needed to fix it when they got some things from Rob Sherwood. But the skirts are just not narrow enough. If you're in a crowded band with a lot of stations, you're not going to be able to copy a weak station with an adjacent station. The good news is,
I didn't have that problem on 160. Not at all.
160 wasn't really that crowded, was it?
It was crowded. It was
Okay.
It was jammed.
But the good news is they promised to fix the skirts in RC29.
Yeah.
Part of what happened is they ported the K3 software over to the K4, and some of the problems they don't even know about.
Well, that's what the testers are for, right? So
Yeah, sure.
well, I mean, let's face it, they've been scrambling with a lot of headwind on all the things that have gone on over in California. They literally got knocked off with the fires. Some of their suppliers lost their homes and their equipment. So they had, I think that was one of the things that caused a lot of delays. I know I ordered this speaker, one of the SP4 speakers, and it came, and that was the box that actually got delivered on Monday, and it didn't get delivered on Monday because Monday is when we had this massive blizzard with 2.5 feet of snow. So I actually wound up getting it on Wednesday, and then I saw on the group's IO that that a lot of the guys now the speaker was back ordered. So they must have just run out about the time that that Madeline shipped everything to me on the speakers. So you know, it's they're being impacted by the supply chain issues, and I guess they have their own supply issues around California too with their suppliers, but they seem to be managing pretty well with the way they've been cranking the transceivers out. So mine was serial number 539, and I think they're up around 590 or something right now. So
Yeah, mine is 172.
172.
And
So
the first 74
Yeah.
went to beta testers.
beta
So I've
testers.
really got production number 100.
So
And
you've
I
got
ordered it. I ordered it May 19th, 2019. So I waited about 2 years, 3
2019.
months to get it.
Yeah. Hey, Ray, can I share a picture from your QRZ page to show your station?
Oh yes, please do.
Yeah,
I do have the 2 speakers. You can see the speakers on the left and right.
Oh yeah.
And the
Yeah.
KPA 1500, it interfaces beautifully with the KPA. And what you don't see, I've moved it so you'd see it now, is I bought the transverter store 2-meter transverter. It's only $95, and it interfaces just perfectly. I take transverter in, transverter out. I was able to put an offset when I do FT8, 2 meters. The right frequency comes on the radio, and it really does transverters nicely.
So which transverter have you got?
The Ukraine store.
Oh yeah. Oh, okay.
If you get the one without the pad, because the K4 only puts out 5 milliwatts.
Oh, cool.
And the monitor above is just a 24-inch HP monitor, and that shows you the separate screen. It's awesome. You can configure it totally separately from the radio.
Nice.
that's great.
Yeah. Cool.
Dana, that's the place that won't ship to Canada.
Yeah. Yeah, the radio's awesome. You know, I saw it at Dayton and fell in love with it and ordered it 4 or 5 days later. But I just wish they would be a little bit more transparent and say, yeah, there is a problem with compression, we're going to fix it. There is a problem with the filters, we're going to fix it. And I had a problem with the transverter. It locked into the transmitter antenna for transmit, couldn't get it out. It took a little bit to convince them I had a problem.
Oh yeah.
And after I convinced them, they said, well, send this command to the radio. I kind of went, and then they said, well, you can do it by just switching the antenna config from, I've forgotten, between the 2 positions, and in that sense, the command, and it'll fix it. So yeah, if you buy one, the firmware is a work in progress, and it's going to be for a couple of years.
Oh yeah, likely. Yeah.
Hopefully only a couple of years.
Well, look at the K3. I mean, I bought mine in 2011, and I think the last firmware update I put in there was about a year and a half ago. So you know, they I'm sure they're not going to stop tweaking it. Let's put it that way.
I'm sure.
You know?
It's an awesome radio, and it's going to be really fantastic. But several of us have said, if you have a major fix, release it. Okay, they say they have the fix for the CW filter, so people are saying, would you please release it before the next contest?
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that.
Yeah. You know.
Yeah, well, you know, it's it is what it is. At least they talk to people, you know, like some of the big 3, not mentioning who, but some of them, some of the stories I've heard from some of the guys around here with with issues and resolution just makes me shake my head. So I much
Yeah.
prefer the way they do it at Elecraft, that's for sure. So
Have you tried same antenna on both receivers? And put like 40 meters on A and 20 meters on B?
well, I've tried my 160 antenna and my 6-meter antenna,
No, you gotta be same antenna.
but no, yeah, well, yeah, same antenna. Yeah, I guess I've
receivers.
left the 160 antenna and used it on 40 and 10 meters as well. So
So
yeah.
you put 40 meters on A and 10 meters on B.
No, put 40 meters, just use the same antenna. Oh yeah, 40 meters on A and 10 meters on B.
So
but
you've
with the
seen the
same
error.
antenna.
So you've seen the error. Error 01.
No, what error was that? Or
The
which-
low pass transmitter
Yeah,
filter is in the path. So you can't have a higher frequency on B than on A with the same antenna.
with the same antenna. Okay, I'm gonna try that. I'll see. So because I haven't noticed any issues that way.
They don't want to talk about that one.
And I've been actually operating on 160 and 10 meters with the same antenna quite a bit. So but I'll try and take a look and see if I get that error.
Any
But I haven't
other
seen it.
questions, guys? while
Anything
we-
else?
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt so much.
It's
I
okay.
apologize.
You're okay,
I'm
Ray.
sorry. I got
Anybody else?
carried away.
Anybody else got any questions? No? Okay, well, that's great talking to you guys, and we'll look for you on 6 meters. I'm itching to give this radio a real good workout on 6 meters. So we'll see. We'll
Should
see
hear a
you.
big signal out of Toronto.
We'll see you guys on the band shortly, I hope.
All right, thanks, guys. Appreciate
Okay.
it all. And
Thanks.
don't forget, next month we got KA6U to give us a presentation, as well as Dr. Scott McIntosh to talk about what the sun's doing these days. So take care, guys. Have a great night, and thanks again, Dana, for pulling all that together for us.
My pleasure. See you guys.
Thank you. Thank
Bye.
you.